This week, the Area Truck Series does something a little different, and instead of the original plan of going racing on the dirt, we're heading north of the border to Montreal, Canada, and Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. This famous racetrack is technically a street course, but it's got all the rough and tumble of a normal road course, high speeds, big curbs, big commitment, but it's known for putting on some of the best stock car racing on lefts and rights that we've seen in NASCAR history. And last night, the Area Cup Series was here and put on a show of their own. Tonight, the Truck Series makes their final stop of the season on a road course with just a few rounds remaining in the regular season. With the playoffs on the horizon, we head up north to Canada for round number 8-9 of the season. Make it. Kyle Heyer joined by Connor Horn tonight. Connor, welcome aboard. And you said last night you're not a big fan of this place as a driver, but it is a spectacle from the seat up here in the virtual booth.
Yeah, and I'm glad I'm not driving because it is a struggle in the driver's seat, especially in those cup cars, but a little bit different tonight. And the trucks weren't planning to be here, so these truck drivers might not have gotten their virtual passports in time, but we'll just have to wait and see how many we get tonight. Going from Knoxville, didn't have dirt tires on those, really, I don't think. So we went to Montreal, just like every series is, besides the trucks this week. At least they were planned to. So that's all cool and dandy with me. And it is a fun track to watch. I remember watching the Xfinity Series, or was in the Nationwide Series, come here, and it was a pretty fun race, whether it was rain or shine. Always put on good finishes. Boris said, photo finish. I think Justin Allgaier got a victory here. And it was a pretty fun track. A lot of passing opportunities. Not really like Sonoma, where, in my opinion, there's only maybe 2 passing zones at Sonoma. You can really pass. There's a lot of passing zones at this track. I count maybe 5 on my... I think 5 is my number, so I'm pretty excited to see how these trucks go around here, and I'm pretty excited how we get through that final chicane. The Wall of Champions is not very inviting, believe it or not. I didn't see many people hit it last night, but I think we are in for a lot more contact there tonight. Yeah, you mentioned passing zones. It's interesting that you mentioned that because this is effectively just a couple of straightaways put together with some chicanes, and all those chicanes you can pass into or out of if you know how to nail it just right. And there's some trouble spots, as you pointed out, the Wall of Champions, but those same chicanes offer plenty of opportunities to cut the course, and in particular the final chicane, turn 13. There's an additional challenge here. Pit lane entry is on the right-hand side of the screen. You can enter pit lane a lot faster than you can take the chicane. We saw some trouble for some drivers getting down in there during their planned pit stop. And we saw Edward Scheer, I think, get into the back of Travis Beckner, forced Beckner to have a slowdown. Scheer got the points for that. So you got to be aware of your surroundings when you're pitting. If you're behind someone, you kind of got to plan accordingly. If you're right behind someone, whether you want to pit or not, you got to be very, very careful because you could really lose a lot of time if you get stuck behind someone while trying to go for a faster pit entry. Travis Beckner was the victim of that last night, but we'll see if he can get to the front tonight. I don't know. Let me scroll up. I don't believe he has any penalties in this series currently, so he will start at the front, unlike last night where he had a drive-through penalty, and he should be one of the drivers, if not the driver to beat. Second on the timing sheet, only to Sebastian Marin, who's just the guy this season with 4 wins. But Beckner, I think, has a very, very good shot of getting a win in the Truck Series tonight. Well, we've got qualifying underway right now. Drivers are just getting set up on their first flying laps. Thing to consider here, you don't have the independent rear suspension or the sequential transmission. This is old school, blips on the downshifts, lifting on the upshifts, and to boot, you're going to be struggling with wheel hop a lot tonight, like we saw at Sonoma earlier last month. But there's only 3 rounds remaining until the playoffs. Chicago, Rockingham, and Talladega, and this caps off a really challenging stretch from Dover, Sonoma, North Wilkesboro, Darlington, and now Montreal. This has been a hard month, Connor, and what does our playoff picture look like? It's pretty crazy at this point. Very, very tight for that top 12 spot. You got your winners, Marin, Hall, Matheson, Urashak. Jonathan Evans is a little bit of a question mark because he's just barely top 20. But as of now, he's in, as well as Connor Urashak, who's not doing too well in the points himself. Guys like Nichols, Venable, Batby, they're pretty good. Not safe fully, but very looking good on points. You got Reese Schaefer, 23 to be good. Seth Knowles only plus 11. You got Daniel Day only in by a point, and there's a tie at the cut line between David Weishart and Trey Eitzen. Now that tiebreaker, if they don't have wins, comes down to top 5s, top 10s, so on and so forth. Weishart has a top 5 this season, so he's in. Travis Beckner, who we could see win tonight, he's 10 points behind, so he needs to get some good points tonight. Guys like Jeremy Miller are 34 points back in 17th, and Ricky Springer, who is a big threat tonight, he's 20th in points, 49 points behind that cut line, but he has a great shot tonight to take a victory, and who knows what could happen outside the top 20 with race winners. There's still a lot of drivers that could get something going here.
Yeah, was it Sonoma where Ricky Springer had an EOL to serve and had to drive through the field and still ended up with an okay race? It might have been the Cup race too, but
it was the Cup race,
yeah,
yes.
He's got a lot of talent, I think, on these road courses, and this is a track I think will suit him well, and the car control piece is going to work out well for him, but on the outlap, he was pushing really hard into this hairpin. This time he gets it woed up, and that's good because this is the lap that counts.
Yeah, and you do get 2 laps. Last night, you probably wanted to use that second lap because of how the tires work on the Cup car. Tonight, not fully sure. You can do lap 2. We saw it at Sonoma. You could get that second lap to go faster, but it all depends on how you drive the outlap and lap number 1, as we'll see which lap he wants to put down as he gets hard into the braking zone. You can see him kind of wiggling under braking. He's going to slam the curb on the right, just touch the ones a little bit on the left side, and we'll see those get slammed all night long. I think those are worse than the curbs at the Roval, believe it or not. At least in the Cup car, they felt horrible. We'll see what they're like tonight. Springer across the line, a 140.64, top of the board for the time being, and Sebastian Marin closed that out of the water, a 138.95, which is around the mark where he was running in practice, maybe a little bit off, but that's a great lap, but Beckner could easily top it.
Yeah, Marin is quickly proving to be easily the one to beat if he wasn't already, and now you throw him at the top of the board by almost 2 seconds. That is an astronomical amount of time at a road course, and at any racetrack, but especially a road course like this. And we saw some really close gaps last night. I was actually impressed with how tight the field was, but that is not the case. I actually think the skill gap in these trucks and the cars on Thursday will be more than the Cup cars, just because of all the creature comforts the newer cars and the independent rear suspension and some of the other pieces give you. John Hall goes second quick in his Ford F-150, and looks like he might be the one to match Sebastian tonight.
Yeah, still maybe 2.5 tenths off, but really the only competitive time compared to Sebastian Marin. Reese Schaefer in by 23 points as it stands. He comes across the line third, a 139.9. Still about a second off of Marin, but good enough for P3 for the time being. Still waiting to see if Beckner gets that time down. He is just coming through the final corners as JT Poole's also about to enter the final chicane. He's 22nd in points. A win could change his season, but he's pretty far back points-wise. Needs to get going as he's going to come rumbling here. See how hard he hits these curbs. He really didn't hit the ones too hard on the right, but he slammed the ones on the left, and I don't think that's how you want to do that. If you're going to hit those curbs, you need to slam the ones on the right, but the ones on the left you cannot afford to hit because you'll be in that wall of champions, as he's not very happy with how that... Oh my goodness, I thought he was going to do a blowover. Oh, he landed it.
Kick flip and lands it. That's only 12th quick, though. Travis Beckner is on his second lap, pushing really hard because lap 1 did not count.
Ooh, he got close to that wall, too, and you're right. Lap 1 did not count, so he has a huge opportunity with the speed he has to go for the win, lock himself in, but he needs to put this time down because you will not win if you don't get a qualifying time down. It just is not possible in the amount of time we have without a yellow, which we won't have a yellow. I am interested to see how the fuel works here. 28-lap race tonight. I would assume we can't make it on fuel, but we're proven wrong. I think Michael Venable made it on a full tank at Sonoma, so we could see that strategy come into play as well.
Is it 28 or 25?
I see 28.
Okay, 28. So either way, I had it set to be 25. That's a short race. Last night's was 35, and it was under an hour from start to finish. This is going to lop another 15, 20 minutes off of that. So this is really going to happen very, very quickly. It does call fuel into question, absolutely, but also the intensity level goes way up. You mentioned how important qualifying is. I genuinely think that qualifying is the most important session of these road course races because of the points that you mentioned. No yellows to reset anything. You've got to get it right the first time.
And we'll see if he gets it right the second time. Really slammed the left side curb, but he got away with it. I would assume that's legal if he did it like that, as he'll come to the line. Does he go top of the board? 96.895 at the line.
Oh, that is third quick.
Third.
There you go.
See if he's happy with that. He was much closer to Marin in practice and might have wanted more. Half a second off. He'll have to go through the 32 and a 0-3 if he wants to win. He might have to worry about Jake Nichols too, who proved last night, whether he meant to or not, he's not too afraid to get a little rowdy to get the victory.
And he's winless on the season here in the trucks. I know that's digging at him a little bit, and this is a place where I think his skills will translate pretty well. Didn't win the race last night by accident. I mean, sort of, but not entirely. He had the skill to be up there, just a little contact, and shifted and shuffled the running order around. Seth Knowles on a qualifying effort as well. Pretty
Nichols,
calm, cool, and collected down here.
And Nichols, he hasn't gotten the wins, but he's been up front all season long. He only has 2 races outside the top 5, 1 race outside the top 10. He has no wins to Marin's 4, and he's still the points leader by 7 coming in tonight. 100 plus clear of the cut line, so no worries here, but he does want to start the front and try to get that first victory in the Truck Series in his area career. As he's nice and tidy on the braking, slams the ones on the right. He kind of slammed the ones on the left too. We're going to see all sorts of strategy in that final chicane as to whether or not you want to slam him, you don't want to slam him. You did not want to slam him last night, but these trucks are way different.
Wow.
97.174, third on the board, just barely off John Hall for second.
Seth Knowles making his way around. He's just going to finish this lap before the end of the session, and it's a good thing too because the first one didn't count. Could you imagine Seth Knowles not getting a qualifying effort in at a road course? He's one of the favorites, I'd have to say.
He's got to get going. He's had a solid season, but not near Jake Nichols' season. He's only 11 points above that playoff cut line, so he's got to get something going. Has to start up at the front.
You know what's so strange?
Top 10.
Is he's had such a good season in the Cup Series, and he hasn't been able to parlay that into a lot of success in the trucks in particular, which is strange. You'd think it'd be the other way around.
Yeah, I don't know. Just maybe not too used to the trucks. I don't know how often he really runs the trucks at any point because I believe this is his first season in this series. So maybe just adjusting to the complete difference from a Cup car to a truck. Trying to look down the top 10, see who's where. Matthew Bappy's in 5th. He's been solid. Drew Jua, he had an early exit last night. He's 7th. Moose, David Weishart tied on the cut line of Trey Eitz, and he had a good run going last night. He had a crazy battle for 12th last night. He's actually 9th, right ahead of Ricky Springer, who I don't think Springer will be too happy with 10th.
No, that's going to be a bit of a tough run. It's possible to win from back there, but you've got to make your moves early, keep the leaders in check. Nasty jump for Seth Knowles. I don't think that's going to pay very well here. Let's see what he's got, though. He ran a 141.933 in a lap that didn't count. That's a 39.8. which is not bad, but I think he would have liked better. P6.
I think he'll be happy with P6, trying to see where he was on the timing sheet. Gary Waterworth just got home from what I recognize. He goes 93.2, so a little down the order 26. There, Weiland trying to rush to the line. He's in the grass a little bit, little too wide. I don't know if that's going to count.
141.4, and it does. 16th.
Just barely, goodness. Way to cut it close.
What's Ricky Springer got there? There he
Lewis
is.
Foster. Lewis Foster was the NXT champion. I believe he's good friends with Lewis. Just showing it off.
Oh, there you go. That's fun.
Season finale for Indy this weekend. Final one on NBC.
You know, that blows my mind because I was told that fact today, and it just feels like it's early, really early. Too early.
I think it's going to be earlier next year.
Yeah, I don't know. I talked to DJ Clark, who works over in the Indy Next paddock, about that, and he agreed that the schedule is pretty blank over there at the moment with most of the country not being serviced. But then he also made the point, it's like, where do you go? Because everything's an NASCAR track, and they're not exactly going to play ball. So it's tricky to build a schedule that you can do and really find a lot of success at.
Yeah, not getting Mexico is obviously the big talking point, especially with Pato Awards.
Well,
so I'm interested to see how that plays out.
I mean, my hot take is what makes them think that they're going to crush, Mexico, and they can't even crush a race in the country that they are in.
Yeah.
Other than one.
I mean, they're definitely struggling in certain ways, that's for sure. They did have a decent crowd at Milwaukee that I was surprised by. That's a positive, I suppose.
I was told that as well, so hopefully they can keep that going and carry the success. Anyway, race fans, be sure to subscribe to the Area iRacing Twitch channel. As a subscriber, you'll have Area iRacing emotes to use in the chat and earn double channel points that you can use to redeem for free merchandise for just $5 a month. Join today at twitch.tv/Area iRacing. And our starting grid sponsor tonight is Central Mobile Homes. We'll talk more about them a little bit later. Practice laps here, warm up. You got to use this. If you haven't done a pit entry practice, this is the time to do it. David Weishart might be doing it here. or he might take the chicane. But I think we don't really know what the pit strategy is going to be. I'll tell you this, though. You're going to see a lot more tire fall off than you saw last night.
Well, you're going to see people miss that final chicane like Julian Valadez did back there a little bit as well. You could see the fuel might be a little tight. You might see drivers pit in the lap 5 to 10 range with about 18 to 23 to go. But I would be surprised if people didn't kind of cut it around halfway. That's usually what you want to do when it's a one-stop at a road course. But like we said, Michael Venable, he made it without a pit stop, made it all the way on fuel at Sonoma. Could see someone do that again as there's a pit entry. Might have been Tyler Hallman, not quite sure, but Bryce Senesac was right behind whoever that was. That was Danny Ware who practiced pit entry. I practiced pit entry last night. I nearly killed whoever was in front of me doing the same thing. It is not too different from the normal braking point because the commitment line comes up in a hurry. The actual speed line comes up in a hurry once you get in there. It's not like you can get all the way into the entry to pit lane and you can go pretty fast. You got to check up quickly, so it's not too far off your normal braking point.
Well, it's going to be a topic of discussion tonight because it was last night as well. And again, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, this is our last run on the road course side of things because next it's all just short track speedways and then a super speedway if you count Atlanta. Well, actually, no, Atlanta's the 08 version, so it's Talladega, the only one that's left. That's a regular season race. Then when we hit the playoffs, Connor, it's a pretty frantic scram between Bristol, Michigan, Iowa, Kansas, and Atlanta. And that's going to favor a particular style of driving that's we're going to see that we've seen less of so far. The tracks that we've been to have been not like those at all. We got a 2 mile on there, a half-mile short track. We got a 3/4 mile track on there, and 2 1.5 milers. But again, pretty different from 1.5 milers we've done thus far in the season.
Yeah, Bristol, we've gone to a short track in North Wilkesboro, but they don't drive anywhere near the same at all. Michigan, the same thing with Pocono, not really comparable, although they're big tracks. And those two tracks provide chaos for that first round before we get to the round of 8. And then you get a Halloween break before Iowa. We saw a lot of chaos in the Cup race at Iowa last season. Not so much in the truck race. We saw Jake Matheson, lead 1 lap and take the victory there. And then Kansas, we saw a lot of wild stuff. Kansas was the cutoff for the round of 12 last season. Brad Slaughter walked off into the round of 8, so he could do that again, or someone could do that again. I would not be too surprised. And obviously 08 Atlanta, old Atlanta, I'm glad it's not new Atlanta. A finale there would be suicide. But yeah, 08 Atlanta is going to be very interesting. And those 4 that get there, they're going to be the best of the best, and they're going to have to perform the best of the best. But we're still a long ways from that finale week.
Have a look there. You see the little indentations on the wall in a couple of places. This track gets used up like these trucks are about to. You always see the NASCAR ads showing how tough the truckers are. But tonight, this is one of those places that you kind of have to race the racetrack instead of, or sometimes in addition to, racing your competitors. It will bite if you don't respect it, much like Darlington from a couple of weeks ago. Checkered flag here on warm-up, and we're heading down to the racetrack in just a moment's time. If you're looking for a small or large home, a new shed, or a Triple Crown trailer, look no further than Central Mobile Homes. They've been proudly serving Florida customers for 28 years with a plethora of small and large home floor plans, shed designs, and Triple Crown trailers. Available in LaBelle, Okeechobee, Clewiston, and Sebring. Head to CentralMobileHomesInc.com to get started today. And providing our replays tonight is Hendry County Motorsports Park. Racing is back at Hendry County Motorsports Park. Join us on September 14th to see UMP open wheel modifieds, street stocks, factory stocks, and more. Tickets are just $15 for adults with discounted prices for seniors, teens, and kids ages 5 and under are free. Come see racing at the southernmost dirt track in America, located in Clewiston, Florida, off U.S. Highway 27. Visit HendryRacing.com for more information. Time to head down to the racetrack now and go over our starting lineup. It is 32 trucks kicking things off tonight. And on the front row, it's Sebastian Marin. No surprise, he blew everyone out of the water in qualifying. John Hall and his Ford F-150 rolls off in second.
And right behind them in row number 2, Jake Nichols, who won last night, got a little rowdy with James Scioli. We'll see what he does tonight from 3rd. Travis Beckner, who can also get rowdy. He'll start in the 4th position after not being able to start the front last night.
Matthew Batbier rolls off 5th place in the number 89. Seth Knoll starts 6th in the number 1. Still looking for a victory on the season for him.
7th position will go to the 07 Reese Schaefer, 23 points into the playoff cut line at this point. Drew Jua starts in 8th.
9th place is Patrick Moose in the number 38 Ford F-150. David Weishart 10th in the number 33.
11th position, Ricky Springer into 51. Probably not happy with 11th, but he'll have a little bit of time to climb up through the field. Joshua Balliet, way down the playoff, or really down the point standing, starts 12th.
Bryce Senesac, 13th place in the 09, giving us an onboard camera tonight. Mason Kane starts 14th in the 31.
15th position goes to a 17 of Edward Scherer Jr., who has a drive-through penalty tonight. Eric Wineland, I don't believe, has a penalty. He'll start 16th.
17th place, Brad Slaughter Jr. in the 81 Toyota Tundra. Jeremy Miller rolls off 18th place in the number 30 Silverado.
Miller also has a drive-through, and Rafe Slate, who's qualified 19th, will have a EOL, so he'll go to the rear of the field. JT Poole will start in the 20th position.
And 21st place, Justin Anasogak in the number 88 Silverado. Daniel Day rolls off P22 in the 61.
And he's only 1 point to the good, so he has to get through the field. Ben Pierce starts in the 23rd position in the number 65. He'll start alongside Garrett Grant. Most starts in area history. Always got to mention that. He'll start 24th.
Jeremy Brown rolls off 25th in the 87. On the outside of row 13, Danny Ware in the number 98.
Then Case Lakatos in the 50 will start in the 27th position. He too has an EOL on this list. He's qualified 27th alongside Gary Waterworth in 28th.
29th place, Julian Valadez in the number 57 machine, and Lucas Strayer starts 30th in the 41 truck.
Sean Peachin in the 69 DoorDash Chevrolet Silverado starts 31st. Evan Johnson starts 32nd.
And in the 33rd place is nobody, because we've only got the 32 starters. We're going to get another lap to see the racetrack at speed and explore the conditions a little bit. Maybe a touch warmer than last night. 74 in the air, 116 on the racetrack. You see the 30 dropping to the tail there. Track temperature, more tire wear, Connor. There's a little bit more to juggle tonight, I think, as far as saving your stuff.
I think it makes it tougher on the rear tires more than anything. I think the fronts will wear out kind of similar to what they will, but it's going to be a lot tougher to get off the corners here. No elevation change really, but it's still anything that might make it even a little bit more tough in certain corners to get out of the corner when it's a flat exit at every part of this racetrack. So these rear tires are going to be lit up after probably 5 or 10 laps. You have to be very, very careful on corner exit. Maybe have to short shift a little bit to keep the rear tires on the thing. So all these drivers at the front in dirty air, whether dirty air or clean air, you got to be careful on those rear tires, because if you run out of rear tires too late, you will have no drive off. You really won't be able to make any sort of move, so you have to save a decent amount of tire here at the beginning of this race.
Well, a number of drivers are giving us looks on board tonight, and one of them is Devin Johnson in his machine. There he is, Creative Graphics shirt on. Look like the look of that is Zaria's shirt. Got all the logos on.
Suit.
Looks fantastic. And then we've got JT Poole giving us his look on board.
Oh, who's that?
A roommate looking on from behind, perhaps. And then Ricky Springer, we've seen his on board so far tonight. Eric Wineland giving us a pedal cam here this evening so we can go to watch the footwork here on the downshifting side of things. There is Travis Beckner. We've also got Daniel Day and Bryce Senesac and John Hall and a couple of more even, because we've also got Eric Wineland's head cam. So we've got all the cameras on a number of drivers tonight. We'll get to see how much we actually get to look at that, because the heat of battle last night, Connor, I know it was a frustrating night, but it never went away. We had something to watch nearly the entire event. So we'll bet that we'll be playing whack-a-mole with the camera selection tonight.
You had battle for the lead until the very end. You had battle for 12th up the final straightaway. I mean, there was all sorts of battling and all sorts of contact at certain parts. There was contact, but it wasn't really a wreck-filled race. There was just minor things here and there, but for the most part a clean race. But it only takes one incident in the wrong part of this track to have the whole track blocked. We saw that at the Roval last season in the Cup race. We didn't see it last night. I was pretty worried it was going to happen, but it didn't. But you just never know. If you get out of 3 and 4 and there's a crash in front of you, you might have nowhere to go. So these drivers got to be very aware of what could happen tonight as we get through turns 1, 2, and so on.
Notice the tack. Sebastian Marin had the clutch in and engine off. There it goes again. So already planning on saving some fuel here to see if he can maybe run the distance. This race will take us 45 minutes from flag to flag, maybe a tiny bit slower because of the consideration of that pit stop, but this one is going to be rapid fire. So if you think you can make it 45 minutes on fuel, you better have started saving when you thought about driving to the racetrack from the hotel, let alone on the grid and getting going.
Watch that 95. He did it at Sonoma. I would not be surprised if he tries something like that again. My my calculations, you might have to save maybe 5 to 6 laps. That's a tall task, but that 95 saved a lot at Sonoma. He could probably do the same here again, but I think it's going to be a frantic start. Track position is going to be pretty important here. Marin's got to get away. If he doesn't clear John Hall before turn 1, Hall will have position for turn 2. We could run side by side through a lot of corners here.
Well, who's your pick to win this race? Connor, you got a favorite?
I'm going to go with John Hall. I think he gets a good start here.
I'm going to roll with maybe a different pick than perhaps you might expect. I'm going to roll with Travis Beckner in the 28. I think the aggression pays off tonight. I think he's hungry for one. Let's see how he can get it done. Time to go racing at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada. A schedule change takes us north of the border, and we're underway. And already fanning out 2 and 3 wide on the run down to the first corner. The 38's going to get squeezed down here. Tough, tight first chicane complex.
And we went 3 wide there, had maybe a little spin in the back, but everyone got it straightened back out. I thought John Hall was going to get to the inside, but Sebastian Marin kind of shut him off in turn number 2, kind of ran him out of racetrack like an F1 style pass there. So Marin keeps the lead. Hall, Beckner got up to 3rd. Great start for him. Nichols, Knoll. It's frantic through this section, very tight. Really no 2x2 possible, but here goes Ricky Springer. He shoved it up the inside of David Weishart for one of those positions back there, and everyone trying to get single filed out. I think Day and Senesek had some contact, but Springer getting aggressive early for 9th.
Yeah, you've got to. You don't have a lot of time in this race. It's going to go by very, very quickly. Springer grabs that 9th spot into the braking zone now for the chicane on the backside of the racetrack here. 14 turns, and almost all of them are about the same speed down in 2nd gear, navigating some rumble strips into the hairpin for the first time, and Marin leads by a half a second over John Hall and then Travis Beckner.
Look at the difference of lines in that hairpin there. You saw Marin take it all the way to the left side wall, while John Hall, kind of how you would do it at Sonoma, kept it to driver's right a lot more. I wonder if that will change as this race goes on, but you can see single filed out through about the top 15 or so. Slaughter and Wineland are going side by side down this long straightaway, and you do not go too wide through this final chicane. You're not single filed out by now. You are going to have a rude awakening if you're on driver's left, but Slaughter and Wineland are side by side in the background. You can see that sort itself out before the corner entry. However, Slaughter had to concede.
Travis Beckner had a slowdown, and so did John Hall from 2nd. Both of those trucks cut the course. Here's what they looked like. It was, I think, the right-hander that did it in for both of them. Too aggressive on the curbing there. I would argue that often the risk is not worth the reward there. Ed Scherer Jr., Jeremy Miller on pit lane serving those penalties, and the rest of the field makes their way into the second half of this second lap.
Yeah, their day's not over because of a drive-through. Miller got the 21st by the end of yesterday, and Travis Beckner almost got 12th from it, so you could still get a good points out of it if you just keep it clean as Marin starts to pull away. Because of those slowdowns for Beckner and Hall, set him way back. His lead's already 1.8 seconds over Jake Nichols, and I think you're totally right. The risk is not really worth it. The reward isn't that much. Maybe in qualifying it would have been. We saw them really cutting it close on that curb, and it bit him as Beckner, big dive on Patrick Moose, almost cut the corner there, almost ran Moose off the racetrack. That was a huge dive from way far back. Seemingly not slow down, but that was a dive bomb, and it worked. Yeah,
it did work. That's the thing. I mean, it'll pay off early here when you've got the grip and everyone else is maybe a bit tentative. Beckner knows where his braking zones are, so commit big time and early. Later in the race, you will not be able to do it with that much conviction, though. You'll lock up the rears, bounce them like basketballs, and it's game over. Again, the rear wheels on these cars are connected with a solid axle. Brad Slaughter Jr. has had a spin over at the hairpin, I believe.
That was, I don't think he had anyone around him, and he had to be really careful getting it back going. He's going to lose a lot of positions doing it at that point of the racetrack.
And right here, just gets the throttle down a little too much. He's offline. And a slow, lazy spin as John Hall goes by Trujua because Jua's kind of slow down. They're going to learn quick. Trust me.
Yep, and it was that right-hander again. You cannot get your left sides on that white part of the curbing, I believe, and that's exactly what he did. Cut it too hard, and he's still having to give up positions. He was in the top 5, outside the top 10, almost outside the top 10, just like that. He will be Reese Schaefer goes on by. It only takes a little bit of too hard of cutting to really ruin your race, possibly. Doing it early, you can recover from, but you cannot do it in the final half of this race.
Yeah, in the heat of battle, it's so easy to just cut that a little bit more. I just don't think it's worth it. Take the extra 10 feet, slow down a little more here as Sean Peachin and Gary Waterworth are side by side here for 24th place.
And that is not where you want to be side by side, but they made it work. Waterworth might have hit the right side concrete wall there a little bit, trying to give the 69 truck, showing the 21, I think, but it is the 69 on the ticker. So Peachin gets that position.
Seth Knoll heating up the tailpipes of the 73. And
Ricky Springer.
Yeah, I was going to say Travis Beckner passed Ricky Springer, but it was because of a slowdown, guys. Get it
that's
together.
And that's the other chicane. That's where I was struggling last night. Really tough braking zone, not really a straight braking zone like the final chicane is. You're kind of turning into it. And if you're not careful, you're going to wheel hop, you're going to go too wide, and you're going to lose a lot of positions there, especially as you can see that 32 still at a 2-second lead. Nichols and Knoll not really in a battle at this point, but it's much more packed up behind Patrick Moose, although he's even saying that it's not too packed up as Reese Schaefer and looks like Drew Jua is going to get that spot back.
See right there, I think Balliet. No, sorry, that was Jua. Again, he's going to have to serve a penalty again, I think.
Maybe not.
Oh, he got away. No, he did.
There it is.
Again,
Goodness.
It's just the amount of aggression over that curb is not necessary. It feels like it is, and you want to jump it, but you just can't afford to do it. When he turns in here, that is too much.
Yeah.
We didn't see a lot of that last night. Maybe we just didn't notice it, but it didn't really seem like drivers were cutting the track all that much. Maybe because the next gens don't respond to the curbs as kindly as this truck and the B car do.
Yeah, you definitely didn't see it in the final chicane because you couldn't hit those in the final chicane last night. These trucks can take it a little bit more, so you're going to see you're already seeing these drivers try to push the limit more, because if they cut it just right, it is faster for lap time, but it's just really, really tight to make that work, as Knoll is heating up the 73 once again. We saw it a lot more in the backstretch chicane, but I think it's hard to cut that chicane as Patrick Moose and Ricky Springer are banging doors in that chicane. Springer, I think, had a dive at the 38, and it almost not going to work. They're almost hitting again.
Yeah, this is really tight quarters between these drivers, and Patrick Moose is going to spin off the nose of the 51. And Weishart will drive through.
Yeah, that was not really surprising. Kind of saw that coming with how tight they raced in the previous chicane. Yeah, that was I think Ricky maybe pinched him a little too much. Very thankful that it wasn't more than that. Ricky Springer and them are disagreeing. Moose thinks it's his fault. Springer thinks it's Moose's fault. As we'll see if there's any fault here. Nichols trying to hold off the one truck. I saw Gary Waterworth have a spin, but he had no contact, so no need to look at that. As all of a sudden, it looks like Marin had a slowdown there right on the rear bumper of the race leader. Oh,
you see, just like that. I mean, and I think you're right, the last lap not recording a time for Sebastian Marin, which tells us the slowdown. And he's going to have to give up more.
He's going to give up the lead.
Wow, Jake Nichols to the top spot here. And we're already 5 laps in. That's how fast this is going.
And there's no, especially for him, no reason to cut it that close. I understand he wants to get away, but costing himself clean air in the race lead is important. Seth Knoll's going to try to have a look for the second position, force Marin offline, but it's so tight to keep it drivers left here side by side. And here comes Matthew Bappy. He's going to try to take advantage of Seth Knoll.
Yeah, this is the second spot he's gained today after starting in 5th, and he's going to have enough of a run. I think he might have a look down the inside of Marin. He does not. Look at Knoll late on the brakes here into the chicanes. We saw the lead.
Wow.
The lead change, not in the obvious passing zones, but down into turn 6 and 7 was where we saw it last night with a little bit of contact and persuasion. And that might be the case again tonight, too.
Had a spin. I think it's Lucas Strayer at the back, but he didn't hit anything. I think Patrick Moose got back in 11th. So I'm interested to see if he can get back to the 51. And this is, yeah, trouble spot. That curb, if you hit it wrong, it'll cut you sideways. And just a lazy spin. Jeremy Brown able to avoid. Drew Jua getting by Eric Weiland for the 14th position as he tries to get back positions from that second slowdown that he had. As it's all of a sudden new race leader. But the 73 probably not going to pull away from the 32 just as easily.
I don't think so. I think you're right. Watch the pedal work here on the 21. You're going to go from 4th gear down to 2nd on the brakes. Blip, that's down a gear. And nails this chicane. Nicely done. Back on power, back on throttle, and he'll continue his lunge forward. Here's the front 2. 2nd back to Knoll, but it's half a second between Jake Nichols and Marin, with Jake probably on the back foot here.
Yeah, I think Jake's going to try to keep the tires on. I don't think he's trying to push away from Sebastian Marin. I would not be surprised if Marin's not pushing too hard either, but I guarantee you he is livid with himself for giving up the clean air and the track position. He's if he is faster than the 73, he's going to have to fight him really hard for the position, because that clean air does matter at every road course, even in these trucks, as Balliet has settled in the 9th position, far down the order in the points, but still fighting for better finishes on the season, as Reese Schaefer in by 23 points, just trying to get a nice and sturdy top 10 tonight.
Yeah, I'm still a little surprised Reese has actually gone backwards in the first couple of laps here. I thought he had surprisingly good pace in qualifying. I thought he'd parlay that to a stronger run in the race, but I mean, it's ways to go, but I thought he'd move forward rather than back.
Looks like Brad Slaughter Jr. had a incident. I don't think we're going to be able to catch it, but I looked back at it. Waterworth, when he spun, Slaughter hit the left side wall in this part of the track trying to avoid, so Slaughter's night might be the first one done.
There's a 30 and Peachin, little side-by-side hip and shoulder there. That'll probably be a slowdown for the 30, and they're going to tangle.
I don't think Miller appreciated whatever happened there. That seemed like he turned into the 69 of Peachin a little bit. I don't know how they got away with that without crashing.
Ed Scherer Jr. had to stomp on the brakes and let them just sort it out. I think that was enough time for the penalty to clear for the 30. And they'll carry on, I think, with a little bit of her ego to boot. But that's what, I mean, this race is like a short track in the sense that you're beating and banging on people. The racetrack is narrow. It's really hard to overtake. But when you do get alongside each other, it's almost impossible to do it without at least a little bit of a hip check here or there.
Especially at that chicane, at that part of the racetrack, side-by-side just does not work. And I was very fortunate to get one pass in with Greg Mitchell early in the race. As Seth Knoll will slow down, you'll have to let John Hall by, and we'll see if he has to give anyone else a position. As Travis Beckner, he's also still trying to recover from slowdown, and John Hall's recovered better than the 28, although he was ahead of him to begin with, but Beckner's still creeping in the picture in the top 6.
He's up in the mix there. Joshua Balliet, Reese Schaefer, a little slip and slide there for Balliet, putting the power down. I think putting the power down smoothly here and not spinning the tires is such a huge key, because your differential's unlocked for a long time as you navigate through these corners at such slow speeds. So when you got that differential open and you go to smash the power, it just kicks the thing out sideways, and it's very easy to burn up tires on acceleration. You have to be patient here before you squeeze that pedal all the way down.
I think especially here, it's almost the worst part of the track for lighting the rear tires up. If you're not careful, if you hit the gas at a bad part, you'll spin like Slaughter, or you'll just light them up too much in general. So I think this is one of the worst corners for it, if not the worst corner for it, as I think someone's had an incident. It was Julian Valadez, but no damage done, as he was 22nd. But it's all minor spins here and there, besides the 38 and 51's incident. Still waiting on Marin to maybe have a crack at the race lead. He is faster last time by, but not quite in striking distance.
Here's Seth Knoll on John Hall here. This is for 4th. So Seth have to give up a couple of places because of a slowdown, but I think he's faster than P5. I know he qualified 6th, but that was kind of a messy qualifying lap.
Been a messy race, not really incident-wise. Ooh, Hall just almost got into the wall there and really checked up the one of Knoll. So he's going to be all over the bumper, and Hall's going to have to protect drivers left, which he did, but Noah's more aggressive, dives to the inside here at this corner, but if he can't squeeze Hall out, he's not going to get the spot. Now he's going to have to try to stay around drivers left, and this is going to be tough to get side-by-side through here. But it's been messy as far as slowdowns. A lot of fast drivers have already done it.
Yeah, I see your point. I mean, it's not a lot of big slips and slides as Seth Knoll on the brakes there is amazing, but just a lot of personal mistakes, just little things here and there. And I think it's just, this is a harder truck, a harder vehicle to drive than we had last night. And there are some quirks to the next gen, but it's a better road course car than the trucks or the Xfinity car are. So I'd expect a lot more slips here and there, which opens up opportunities for drivers, I think, to make passes. But it's one of those scenarios in which it feels like it's really hard to make progress because everyone's kind of on equal footing. And then it's very easy to lose positions because mistakes are so easy to make.
And we're certainly not done seeing that mistake in the final chicane with everyone trying to push that curve. You see Jake Nichols really not pushing it that hard, but Sebastian Marin does. And when he does, he gains a lot. But that risk is having to give a lot of time back if you hit it just wrong. He took so much more curb, but not too much to get a penalty. And he gained a lot that time. He was a half second faster.
Into turn 2, 0.4 of a second between these front two, and then behind Seth Knoll, John Hall's there, and Travis Beckner has caught these two.
I think Lucas Strayer had a crash in around the 3 and 4, so he might be the second retirement, but Beckner's still chasing down John Hall, who he battled with a lot last season, battles with him again a little too far and hit the wall pretty hard on the concrete there for the 28. That didn't hurt too many cars last night, but that was still a pretty big hit. Just pushed the entry to that chicane, the right-hander, too much, and he couldn't set up to the left side.
Yeah, just lost the nose there and wasn't able to make the corner. Reese Schaefer on the brakes under Balliet. He's been waiting for this for a few laps, and Balliet's just going to widen out, let him go, make a taller arc. Evan Johnson is into the pit lane here. Is this a planned pit stop, maybe?
Don't see much damage. Lap 8, you can almost certainly make it from here, so we'll just have to see if this is the strategy he wants to play. He would be the first one to pit of anyone else besides the drivers in pit lane for the rest of the race, as Nichols still getting away from Marin a little bit, at least off the hairpin he did, but pretty evenly spread out between about the top 6 or so. Ricky Sprinter still trying to recover from the incident with Patrick Moose. He was well faster than the 0-3 last time by.
Justin Anasogak, Daniel Day.
Oh my goodness, Edward Shear didn't even come close to making the backstretch chicane. Oh, contact Anasogak in Day. That's not gonna go over well with the 88.
I didn't get a run out of it though, so that will go nowhere. The leaders enter turn 1 again, 19 laps to go. So halfway is about 4 laps from now. And 32 minutes left on the estimator clock here. So again, the pace at which this race is going by is very, very quick. We're already past a third of the way, in other words.
And it is not going to slow down anymore. It is a sprint race tonight. Kind of like what it would have been if we were on the dirt, although we would have had heats and all that. But this is
yellows.
still... and yellows, probably a lot. But definitely a sprint to the finish compared to most other races. That's big dive from Beckner. Shoves Seth Knoll pretty much out of the groove, and I don't think Knoll appreciated that. Beckner way too wide out of that corner, and Knoll's going to keep the spot. But that was, once again, I think Beckner is just a lot better than most people under braking. I'm not even sure if he meant to go for that move because he swerved at the last second to even avoid the one of Knoll, but he is fast.
Driving in really hard, but the truck's been giving it back to him. And I don't know how long that'll be sustainable for. We're down, what are we down, 3 seconds, 2.5 seconds at the front of the field? So, you know, the tires are falling off. They're not going to tolerate these big, heavy moves, but while they can work, why not try them?
Track position is important. If you have a chance to get any sort of spot, you kind of have to go for it whether you want to or not. And like I said, I don't think he wanted to. He kind of swerved into that move. I think he was just trying to avoid the one. So we'll see if he can get a little closer, actually have a fair look at him as the leaders stay out. Still not seeing pit stops at this point, but you can see how much he closes up in that chicane. Hits the curbs hard. Kind of lost it that time, though. Not as fast as the 32 had been over that part of the track.
So at the front of the field, things have calmed down. Marin has been effectively matching Jake Nichols' pace, but not growing or shrinking that gap at all. Here's another little battle. Eric Wineland, JT Poole going at it. This is for 15th place. Man, JT hammered that curve.
And he's moved up, or at least tried to move up a little bit. He started 20th up to 16th position. A little further down in the points, probably needs a win. Probably not going to happen tonight, but he's got some good tracks coming up for him. He's just trying to get through this one and stay in the points picture, trying to get that top 15 from Wineland, working the wheel about as hard as he can without spinning out. He's really sideways on the throttle. Seems like the rear tire's really given up, and we are still not at halfway at this point, and he seems like he's struggling all the way around. He doesn't have rear grip, and it seems like he's struggling to get the fronts to turn.
Oh, that was a little wild. The braking from Wineland and back to JT Poole. Back to this fight for 4th, Beckner and Knoll. And Beckner was 0.3 of a second quicker last time around. See if he sets him up for a pass somewhere else on course.
Maybe had a slight tap to the bumper there through the hairpin, but nothing too egregious. Just letting Seth know that he's letting him know he's there and he's not probably going anywhere unless that chicane bites him again. But if you're Travis Beckner, it's probably too early to pit if you want to take tires, but you almost feel like if you get stuck behind the one for too long, you might have no choice but to at least maybe try a pit stop just to get away from him possibly. That might be a strategy we see other drivers go for, as he did not hit that front stretch chicane that well that time. Oh, we do have a pit stop. I think it's David Weishart from 8th.
And he'll be the first, I think, of the notables to make their trip down pit road. And this is roughly halfway, not quite. This is like a 45% pit stop. He'll roll on in, and I didn't see anybody follow him this time. But now that he's made one, I think maybe there's some others that will take inspiration from it or watch his progress. With the amount of tire fall-off we have, I can absolutely justify taking tires instead of fuel only like we saw last night.
What's pretty important for him is to come out in somewhat clean air, and I'm not sure if he will. Garrett Grant will maybe come out ahead of him, and I think he'll come out ahead of Edward Shearer. So if he's going to come out in a decent spot if Garrett Grant lets him by. If he gets some clean air to run in after getting by the 5, it could work out as Beckner has made the move. Or no, excuse me, Matthew Bappy's falling back to Seth Knoll for that 3rd position.
This could make things a little more interesting, perhaps, between these drivers.
And Bappy has not been able to keep pace with the top 2. Jake Nichols, Sebastian Marin are pretty far gone, 5 seconds ahead of Bappy, as Knoll is reeling the 89 in, as lap traffic a little further ahead than Nichols. That's Devin Johnson, who already came to pit lane.
Yeah, Knoll tried to squeeze the throttle a little sooner to get a run on Bappy, and it just would not take it. So he lost some ground to Bappy there, and Beckner gained some ground, but you don't see a lot of passes down into this chicane. It's hard to get a run leaving that hairpin. Oh, Beckner touches the wall. He's not lacking in confidence or commitment, is he?
No, certainly not. He came dangerously close to the actual wall of champions there with the tire barrier, and that would have been probably worse because it would have made him hit harder as he gave a big shot. That's a bump and run attempt, I think. That time he tried to move him, and it didn't really work. I don't think Knoll got through 1 and 2 that well, and Beckner got just enough contact into a 1 where it wasn't enough to really get the 1 offline. I think what's best for him is to see if Seth Knoll can try to work over Matthew Bappy, because once again, he was 10ths faster than the 89, but getting patient after a little while as you're going to have to navigate by the 90, who just lets the 1 by. Ooh, that's going to slow up to 28 a little bit, though. Oh, that's going to really slow up John Hall even more.
Yeah, Beckner didn't have to make a huge line correction. You just had to jump out of the throttle to make sure he didn't wash out. Definitely hurt John Hall. Next time by 15 laps to go. The leader's Jake Nichols, and interestingly, I thought Sebastian Marin would get right back onto Nichols' tail after the slowdown, but he has not done that. And he's actually struggling to match the pace of Jake now.
Yeah, certainly doesn't look as fast as he was earlier. It just kind of goes to show, at least from what we're seeing right now, maybe he's saving, but that clean air is pretty darn important, and Jake Nichols has been able to take advantage of it. Sean Peach and Jeremy Brown took the pit lane, still waiting on any other top 10 drivers to come down. Weishart's the only one so far who's come down. We haven't gotten a definitive time from him on fresher tires, but he is in clean air, I believe, past Garrett Grant. It looks like the top 2 are going to come in. Matthew Bappy will not. See if Travis Beckner does. No, I thought he had enough of a gap maybe to try it, but did not commit that time.
Looks like everybody's going to drive by pit lane except for the 7. Joshua Balliette's in. So he'll come on down and get service here at effectively a lap before halfway.
We'll see where he comes out compared to Weishart, see if Weishart can jump him here, at least stay in front of him. Don't remember where they were on track compared to each other before the 33 pit, but they might be pretty close together, I would think, as we saw that 2-second lead for Marin disappear because of a slowdown. Well, now Jake Nichols has turned it into a 2-second lead himself.
Yeah, that's an impressive drive what Nichols is doing right now. And we pointed out at the beginning of the broadcast that Nichols has yet to win a race in the Truck Series this season, and it's not for lack of results. His results this season have been phenomenal. It's only 1 finish outside the top 10, and that was a 12th. Everything else has been a top 5, except for 8th at Charlotte. So it really has been an unbelievable season. And it's weird that he hasn't won yet. It would not be weird for it to be at a road course. We've seen him do well there before.
Yeah, I would not be very surprised. I think if he just goes on a pretty normal strategy here, he should be in a good spot. He just pulled out a few more tenths to Sebastian Marin, who I think messed up that backstretch chicane, as these two still pulling away from Matthew Bappy, who is still holding up Seth Knoll, Travis Beckner, even John Hall is in that mix. The 89 is slower, but the 1 can't really get any closer than what he has already. I would still not be very surprised if he came down the pit lane, try to avoid the 89's dirty air, maybe get fresher tires. As I say that, actually, I think Bappy's going to pit, and Seth Knoll follows him in, which I don't think is what he really wanted to do.
And Marin is on pit lane as well, so Bunch of drivers this time pitting at the halfway point, lap 15.
3 Schaefer's in. I would think Jake Nichols, I would think he needs to respond, but he could choose to go long, get fresher tires, but I think if he just responds, he should get ahead of the 32. That's all he might need. Everyone really coming in. Moose, Kane, Bryce Senesac in as well.
Noel had to back up a little bit in his pit box. It's going to cost him some time on the leave.
So when David Weissart comes out, he's actually not looking too bad, as Weissart's already at the start-finish line. Looks like Noel's out of pit lane. He's going to come out behind JT Poole and in front of Rafe Slate.
Ooh, that was
He
tight.
just got in front of JT Poole, as Weissart came pretty close to the one of Noel by pitting a few laps earlier.
Yeah, the tires do matter, but I don't know if it's enough to where I want to have to make passes. Like if you're at a track like Darlington, like we saw a couple of weeks ago, you know, it's tricky, but you can pass there. Here, you know, you have to use so much more of your car to make a pass that I would rather just pit so I don't have to do it all over again. If I'm Jake Nichols, I pit this lap and don't wait anymore. We'll see what he's got in store.
I would not be surprised if Beckner does the same thing. I would think you kind of need to respond. Beckner will just, I am interested to see what he does. This looks like a late braking zone. Nichols is going to respond, so he's in the pit lane very deep, but looks clean. Beckner would be next in line to come into the pits, and he is. Does John Hall follow? Yes, he does.
So now it's how the strategy plays out. Where is that 32 on track for P5? He's on the backstretch.
It might be close, but that straight exit out of pit lane will probably help the 73 big time here, as Ricky Springer also pit. Jake Nichols still getting the left sides up. This might be good for the 32. I think I think Marin's going to get him here. And Nichols going to try to get there, but he's not going to get there.
Yeah, so Marin's going to get that lead back. I don't know that the tires are enough of a gain. This is why I didn't really like the idea of staying out any longer than this. But he doesn't have a lot of overlap, so it's not going to be a significant tire advantage in the first place. So I don't know. I think this was well-played strategy by the 32.
Yeah, I just did not think he could cut a 2-second gap with one extra lap, but he certainly did. I mean, his in-lap must have been, really both laps must have been great to get all that gap. Not only he got 2 seconds behind Nichols, he got that back, but he put another 1.5 seconds on the 73. So very, very impressive in-lap and out-lap from the 32 to regain the lead.
And with all the other, I mean, only one car has not made a pit stop. It's Casey Lakatos. Everybody else has done it. Here's some battles. Here's JT Poole, Justin Adesogak. This is a big lunge from the 26 here. And actually
Justin's going to give it to him.
Yeah, spooked him a little wide.
I think Justin was like, okay, you really want it, let's just give it to you. I'm not doing this. Trying to look further back, Edward Scherer just got by Lakatos, who still has a pit, so not really a battle there. Scherer and Miller both had that EOL. They're still next to each other as that lead stays 1.6 seconds as Jake Nichols kind of got a break to get the race lead early on. As there's battling in behind, Steph Knoll and Matthew Bappy battle into the chicane, and Bappy is the loser on that one. Maybe he had a slowdown. He lets Travis Beckner by at the same time.
He had something to serve because he let a couple trucks by, and he's still giving them time.
Ricky Springer into the wall of champions hard for the 51.
Wow.
Oh, and Moose hit it behind him a little bit too.
Trying to pass Balliet. I said earlier, we haven't seen a lot of passes down here because it is hard math. Gets to the inside, little contact at the apex, and bam, just bad angle. That ended a night for, I think it was Jua last night.
Yeah, you're not going to make that pass there unless you clear them. You don't go side by side through there, and that just proved it. And Springer got the short end of the stick for sure. As now, with Matthew Bappy out of the way, John Hall has also gotten by the 89. Travis Beckner doesn't have clean air, but the one does, but he's still hounding the rear bumper of the one truck for third.
Accelerating up down towards the chicane. He's got Noel on a bit of a defensive line. He's going to break across the racetrack. Beckner on a very different approach here. Big cut over the right. Was that too much? That was borderline, I think. Yeah, he did have to give it up.
Has to drop back and try to regroup and catch him back again. That gives Noel maybe a chance to cool him down a little bit for that third position.
Bryce Senesac chasing Eric Wineland. He's a couple tenths a lap faster. They should make pretty quick work here, and he's set up for the exit here. Wineland charged the entry a little too much.
And that was nice, but I don't know if Senesac's, he might be close enough if he wants to try a lunge, but nothing better than a lunge here. But I think he's poking the nose, might try it, but Wineland's going to shut it off. I think they're both going to miss the corner, and Senesac actually got through the corner better.
And they're going to be side by side up the back straightaway now. And who's going to back out first? This is a corner you have to race to, not race through. Someone's got to concede.
I don't think either of them are, but Senesac's going to go deep in the break. That's way too deep. Got to worry for about Devin Johnson, and they're not going to give way. And he would have had the spot if the 90 wasn't there, but he's got to concede.
And yes.
Oh, it's going to be frustrating.
That is so frustrating. You set a pass up in one of the most challenging corners of the racetrack, and Wineland swings back over to the side. Now Devin is out of the way. He can't just hit the disappear button. No, he did nothing wrong there.
Yeah, I think Wineland told him to get out of the way, so he was like, all right, let me just stop if you want me to get out of the way. That's kind of what happened there. But I'm sure Senesac is more upset than the 21. He had that position. He actually did great under braking, but had a truck in the way.
All the while at the front of the field, Jake Nichols is reeling in Sebastian Marin. Last time by, it wasn't even insignificant. It was 0.6 of a second. That's the gap to the lead now.
Yeah, now it's a half a second down the straightaway, and it's actually gaining. You see that maybe draft. Does he have a slowdown? Springer and Balliet just hit again at the same time, but the 73 is closing in a little faster than I thought he would. But this is when it gets really tough. This is when the dirty air is at its absolute worst. It's really hard to break through that bubble. But if Marin keeps making these sorts of mistakes, it might be a little easier. Now it's 0.3 of a second and still coming down.
10 laps to go here at Montreal, and it is going to be a battle up at the front. Sebastian Marin has won 4 races. Jake Nichols has won none. How bad do you want it?
Ricky Springer pitting again, must have had too much damage or something. Balliet missed the final chicane as Marin had a slowdown or something's happening. I don't think that's a slowdown. I'm wondering if strategy's wrong or something to be this slow. But Jake Nichols to the race lead.
He's still slowing down. Something is amiss. Did he not fuel the truck or something? I mean...
Well, it was really weird down those straightaways. He kept losing, and he's still not up to speed. Lost a lot of time. I mentioned Ricky Springer had the pit, maybe for too much damage. Edward Shearer just had to slow down. I think the 30 has a slowdown, but really, really odd. Marin kind of gained this race back, and now it's gone just like that. And older tires, 4-second gap, even if he has fuel, I don't think he can make that up without another mistake from the 73.
And through the chicane, look at Eric Wineland. He has got his hands full of Bryce Senesac right now.
A great battle there. A little further behind as well. Rafe Slate, Jeremy Miller, Edward Shearer. I think Ben Pierce as well. They're in a battle, but the 09 has been lighting up Eric Wineland, who I guess is the best in class of the drivers running the number 21 on their trucks tonight, because I think Sean Peaton's a little further back with that number accidentally on. But Senesac's faster. He's just trying to figure out which lane Wineland's going to give him to get by. Wineland's deep. He's not good under braking, cannot really get through there like he has been earlier in the race, but Senesac couldn't do much that time.
The back straightaway, Jeremy Miller and Ed Shearer Jr. This is a battle you guys, or you pointed out a little while ago. These guys have been at it for some time here. And Miller swings to the right. Yeah, it's just...
Him and Shearer have been battling after those drive-thrus all race long. That might be enough to let the 17 go, but Shearer's had his incidents too, as I think Miller's probably served it, trying to protect from Rafe Slate. Now Slate's going to go driver's right, maybe trying to get the 30 a little bit offline. And I think Wineland, Anna Sogak missed the final chicane, so he's going to be back behind this battle as well.
All this is getting shuffled. Here's back to Wineland and Senesac. And Sogak and Pierce. This is the closest fight. 20th place on the racetrack.
Soga got out right in front of the 65 of Pierce. This is now a battle for a top 20 position. As Ricky Springer has gotten back on track after pitting again. I'm wondering if he either had too much damage or he did not fuel the car enough, because he did get back on track. So can't imagine if he had damage, he was going to pit for that. Now he's all the way down, probably outside the top 25. Devin Johnson kind of in the way of Shear, but Patrick Moose is still trying to recover from his incident with the 51, trying to get by the 7 of Balliet, who's also had a run-in with the 51. Something common.
You try to find anything you can at a road course race, right?
Yeah.
If I can't have a great day, I'll just have the same day as everybody else.
That's certainly good for some drivers, as one of our series admins pointed out. The 81 truck is roasting in the pit lane. Someone needs a virtual fire extinguisher in there, but Jake Nichols is on fire because he's been probably, besides Sebastian Marin, he's probably been the best driver in the series. Point leader, worst finished of 12th. Now he has a 5-second lead. Almost there, but still a lot of work to be done.
Balliet and Moose, this is the fight that's going on now. This is for 9th place on the racetrack into the chicane, and Moose was a half-second quicker last time.
I think the 38's regained some speed there. I think his tires are probably shot after the slide into the hairpin, but after he got new tires on it, he's been starting to climb back through the field again, trying to get this 9th position, as Balliet's just trying to hold on to a top 10. Not too far behind. I think Mason Kane just got by Drew Jua, but that battle's still ongoing as well, as Beckner, yes, he is still lighting up Seth Knowles. He's kind of re-engaged into this battle. That got tight.
He's got to run, and Knowles slips out into the marbles. He's not going to get the, they're going to touch, and swings over to the right to Seth Knowles off the bumper of the 28. Game on here for 3rd place.
Yeah, I don't think this will end well. I don't think Knoll liked the contact into the hairpin, but Beckner, I think, is faster. This is going to be tight. More contact. You do not want to make contact there. Beckner way deep under braking. Way too deep.
No way. Not possible. He wanted it in his head, but he couldn't get that done.
Yeah, he got a little over-aggressive there. He knew he had a good run on him, but just missed the braking point by a little bit there. He'll probably have one more chance at him, I would think, but it's going to be a lot of work to get back there again. And this is, speaking of battles that won't go away, Senesac just cannot get by the 21, and now Patrick Moose is in the same situation.
In the braking zone for the first sector here. About 10 minutes of racing remaining, so if you've got any speed to use, you're going to use it now while your tires are still relatively fresh, and then you got to conserve it for the rest of the show. Bryce Senesac has a look here at Weiland into the first corner.
You see Weiland kind of weaving around the racetrack, trying to make Senesac unsure of what his entry line is going to be, and it's kind of working because Senesac can't really find a clean part of the racetrack to get alongside Weiland when he's doing that, so it's pretty impressive driving. I think in open wheel racing that'd probably be called blocking, but all clean here, as I thought Senesac was too deep. As a matter of fact, he is, but actually made it work, but definitely going to lose time there. Very, very easy to get lost at this track. When you're behind someone at a track this flat, you really got to kind of guess on your braking points. It's really, really tough to remember where it is when you're tucked up behind someone like Senesac was right there. I think Moose is going to have a look on Balliet in the hairpin. Yes, he is. Side by side up ahead. As you can see onboard Balliet having to give the space to the 38, but he's got to get the better run off the corner, and he should re-clear him.
He will, but again, it's just enough of a straightaway that you can get a run. So we'll see if Patrick Moose will do the same that we saw Travis Beckner do without the huge lunge from 10 car lengths back. Braking zone, he's going to follow Balliet here into the chicane. Little touch, little push, right at the right time.
And Seth Nolan, Beckner just had contact in turn 1. John Hall is going to get to the inside of Beckner, but couldn't quite get it done. That got a little too rough that time with Beckner and Nolan. It's probably not over. You see right here, Beckner gets there. Noel's trying to break for the corner.
Whoa.
They kind of get hooked together when Beckner kind of hits the 1 a little bit. I don't think that was intentional, but I think the patience is running out.
Yeah, it's a 3-car race for 3rd place now. John Hall would love it back. Remember, he got shuffled out early in this race after starting 2nd because of a slowdown. So if he can take a spot or 3 back, he'd do it.
I think this ends poorly for one of these drivers.
Yeah, you think?
Both.
We'll use all of our years of analysis work for that.
all our seasons of area, we kind of know what could happen, as Beckner is the clear faster truck, but Seth Knoll is not giving him any sort of daylight. I think Beckner will have another look here. We'll see if he goes left or right, or he just puts it into the rear bumper of the one again here. John Hall's just hoping it works out for him to get the position, as Beckner kind of over-unders are trying to the one here. They're going to make more contact out of the corner. You can see the one has no rear grip, as Rookie Springer gave way to a driver in behind, but he did not have the run out of the hairpin like he needed that time.
Yeah, and he spun the tires big. I thought that John Hall was actually going to be close enough to pounce, but he was not. And there's a gain on the brakes again, where he has been so good all night. That's another big cut. That might have been too much again. He got away with it. He's lucky, and he did.
See how turn one goes this time. Another place where he's better under braking, but if he misjudges it, he gets into the one again. Not as deep this time, but we'll see if turn two, he gets back to the bumper. Big hit that time. I think maybe put the brakes a little bit.
I was going to say, you see Seth, he exited the corner so far to the right. That tells me that he's just holding out to try to check up Beckner into John Hall so he can get disposed of that way. Seth didn't leave the corner as fast as he could, and that was totally on purpose.
And you can see how big of a hit that was that time. Now there's right rear damage to the one truck, and they're coming up on slower traffic. Jeremy Brown, Julian Valadez up ahead as Beckner once again right to the bumper, hitting him again a little bit. But when he does that, he's kind of giving up his exit, and he can't stay close enough to the one to have a look into the corner. He's had dive bombs from this far back. I don't think he'll try it this time, but you can see the one kind of shutting that down. It is kind of like F1 trying to back someone up to the other, but this time Beckner has a good run.
Yeah, no DRS here. You got to do it with your right foot. Here he comes down to driver's left. This is the run down to the hairpin here. Knoll pulls ahead. And if Beckner could try to rip the outside here and carry a little more speed, get the power down early, they turn.
Yep, and there goes John Hall. He's going to go side by side with him. Seth Knoll pulled out right in front of Bappy, but kept it straight. And
you called it.
Not going to go over well.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it was very easy to call. I'm no rocket scientist, but Travis Beckner, Seth Knoll, aggressive driving doesn't work out. Hall's going to give the spot back to Beckner. That's how it goes. We saw Beckner was kind of done with the one, hit him over and over again. Knoll was not going to budge. And right here, Beckner has a good run through the center of the corner, stays to driver's left, and they kind of just come together. I don't know if you can really pin it on one or the other. It got really tight on the corner exit, but we know it was aggressive.
Well, here's what we can do to solve this problem. We can go to Travis Beckner and ask him who caused it, and then we can go to Seth Knoll and ask who caused it. I'll bet you they'll have completely different opinions, and they'll be very passionate about which one they think it is.
We saw that with Rookie Springer and Patrick Moose already, but at the end of the day, it's the admins that make the decisions, and we'll see what that gets called. Neither driver's in penalty issues at this point in the truck series, but Travis Beckner is suspended for the next Cup race. So we'll see how that one gets judged, as Beckner is now probably clear for P3, barring any incidents that he has. They were catching Sebastian Marin, who's really fallen off the pace. Still not sure what the issue is with the 32, whether it was slowdowns or maybe didn't fuel it fully. Valadez is drifting.
And here's John Hall on Beckner now. He's going to have a bit of a more fair shot down to the braking zone. Beckner goes to cover. John Hall swings back to the left, and it'll be all about the exit from here.
That was kind of impressive. Hall kind of turned under braking. I don't understand how to do that. That's probably why I'm slow at the road courses, but it didn't really give him a run off the corner that he wanted.
You have to do that very carefully. Lead off the braking just enough. And Patrick Moose is going to do the same down in here on Joshua Balliet, but leaves some space. Balliet gives him a door. And they're through.
It's nice when they give room. That was nice right there. But it's also why Patrick Moose is still stuck behind Joshua Balliet.
Exactly. Nice guys finished 10th.
And 14th in Senesac's case, he's still not gotten Eric Wineland.
Beckner and Hall, I think this battle's far from over here too. But no changes up front. Jake Nichols has put an enormous lead on Sebastian Marin. Now 8.3 seconds.
See if the battle for 6th turns in anything, because Knoll does have a decent amount of front-end damage, and he's kind of backed up to Reese Schaefer because of that incident, but Schaefer's not close enough to have a look, and John Hall's not quite close enough either.
Balliet and Moose, this one's going to be feisty. How long do you think Patrick Moose stays nice for?
Until maybe the hairpin lap 28 of 28. That's kind of where you got to do it. You don't really want to play dirty in the final chicane. It usually won't work out for you either. They might be chasing down David Weishart. Remember, Weishart pit earlier than anyone else. They actually weren't faster than the 33 last time by, and Weishart pretty much pit from 8th, so this has pretty much been where he's been running all race long.
And Sebastian Marin 5 seconds off his best lap because, I think he just got another slowdown. And he's just continues to bleed time to Jake Nichols.
Still in a great spot for the playoffs with all the wins, but this is definitely one he's probably going to be a little upset at himself. One that he could have had number 5, could have inched closer to the 73 in points for that regular season title that gives more bonus points, but barring something crazy, just couldn't quite stay consistent enough over the curbing.
2 laps to go for the race leader, and the other battles that are happening. See, Balliet and Moose, theirs even fizzled for a moment. Miller and Slate, this one's on for 17th.
Remember, Jared Miller had a drive-through. He's driven up to 17th. I think he'll take that. Oh, being ready.
You're sorry, Connor. I just heard the rear locking on the 8. That was some big wheel hop down there into the brake zone.
I'm sure if Jeremy heard it, he would have been very scared as well. Because if you see someone, I think Greg Mitchell, someone had an incident behind me early in the race last night, and I saw them going to cut the hairpin sliding. I was like, oh my God, I am going to crash. Because it is very scary if someone misses the braking zone behind you. Unless you catch it, you have nothing you could do. So you got to be aware of that at all times. Nichols just got by some lap traffic. Battle for 24th will be close. Waterworth and Peachin.
Bouncing a skip over the rumbles there. Where's Jake Nichols? Down at the hairpin. He has just executed this, and I did not think that that this strategy was going to play out for him, but it seemingly has. And by
definitely
a lot.
Worked out for him.
Yeah,
just definitely got fortunate a little bit, but he still made it work, and he's had great pace. And whether Marin's had slowdowns or not, he has been very fast when he gets into clean air. And I'm sure he's thinking to himself, it's about time. But he's still got a full lap to work with as the battle for 25th goes on behind.
That was pretty dicey there. That was Waterworth and at Peachin. It is.
Oh.
And that was a slowdown for the 69, which is why he has to give the spot back up, cut the corner too much. I don't know when everyone thought that you could go side by side through that chicane. You absolutely cannot. So I don't know why they thought the trucks would be able to.
I cringe to when NASCAR, if they ever come back here, how the real life series do it, as
They're
we're
gonna have
finally
to
on the
put
white flag lap.
concrete walls down there. That's the only way that that's going to get solved. They did it at Sonoma, but it's not really a flick chicane down there. It's just a hairpin. So who knows? Jake Nichols on this final lap. A couple of miles to go. The 609 Motorsports Chevrolet is looking mighty nice in those purple and blue colors. I think it's receiving some of the benefit of having that new spec map change that was in the update. And it's looking very, very shiny purple, which I think was the original intention.
He's going to have to get by Devin Johnson one final time. He's in the grass a little bit over there, as he might just call it a day here, as Sebastian Marin probably going to be one that got away, but he'll still take second. But Jake Nichols even coming in tonight he was seated first, at least tentatively. We still have a few races to go, but Nichols, as far as those playoff points, he's starting to add them up, and that is dangerous if he starts to add a bunch of them up.
Yeah, my pick to win this race was Travis Beckner, and he got caught up in too many things, I think, to win this race. Your pick was John Hall. He ended up 4th after a slowdown really put a damper on his day. By the way, the 1 and 28, 1 point each for the incident they had at the hairpin. Jake Nichols, though, he has been denied too many times, and a multi-time champion across the area series. You're not going to deny him for long. Checkered flag, and Jake Nichols wins at Montreal in the Area Truck Series. Round 9 of the season, and his first, maybe of more to come.
And that was a beatdown at the end. 8-second gap to Sebastian Marin. Beckner will come home 3rd. John Hall will come home in the 4th position, a little further back. I think 5th is going to go to Bappy. Good drive for him. Seth Knowles just going to hold on to 6th, and I'm sure he'll have a date with someone to talk to after this race. Schaefer's 7th. Jeremy Brown going to coast across line 8th. Weishart, Balliet, Moose, the top 10. Juju had a solid run in 11th. He's coming drifting across the line, as there's still a bunch of battles. Anna Sogak and Ben Pierce are going to battle to the line. Senesac not close enough to get to Eric Wineland. and Miller's pulled away from Rafe Slate for 17th.
Yeah, Ben Pierce, Garrett Grant, 13 seconds back. He's battling Danny Ware, but Ben Pierce and Anna Sogak have about a half a second between them, and there is still opportunity because of that chicane for things to get a little more wild. See if they can nail this on the last going.
JT Poole drifts across the line. Ben Pierce is likely not going to be close enough at this point. Garrett Grant trying to hold off Danny Ware. He should be able to do that. Ben Pierce had a good final chicane, but not going to be enough.
It will not be. Ben Pierce will come home 21st, and a Sogak in 20th. Well, Montreal and the road courses, man, I'll tell you, they put on a show. Here is what the results look like after our second and final road race of the season. And you said it was a beatdown by Jake Nichols, 8.1 seconds at the finish. Sebastian Marin looked like he had it well in hand until it just unraveled at the pit stop.
Yeah, it unraveled after the pit stop. The pit stop actually got him back in the front, gave him a chance to get the victory, but those slowdowns, it seems those slowdowns are what cost him. He was able to get to the finish without tires or without fuel, so must have been just too many slowdowns, and he had a big advantage and gave it up, and Jake Nichols was able to take advantage of it. Travis Beckner contact with Noel, but he gets the third position. John Hall fourth, Batby fifth, Noel relegated to sixth, then Schaefer and David Weishart, Joshua Balliette, Patrick Moose 7 to 10. I think they'll all take those results. I think Moose could have done a little better without the contact on the 51, but I still think he'll take the recovery.
Drew Jua, 11th place, better than last night for sure. Mason Kane, how about Eric Wineland, 13th? Salvaging an okay result here. Senesac, Poole, Scherer Jr., Miller up from the back of the field in a drive-through. Rafe Slate and Day and Anna Sogak rounding out your top 20. And the rest of the field here, some drivers having a tough one. Ricky Springer had the speed, but a collision takes him out. Sean Peach and Waterworth, they battled the entire race, ended up right in front of each other, 24th and 25th. All Chevrolets down there. And Brad Slaughter Jr. out with issues early on in the going. That's your race results here for Montreal. And Connor, that was a great show. And unfortunately, it is the last road race for the season, but we do have Chicagoland coming up next week, which should be a lot of fun.
Should be a lot of fun. I think that's a place David Weishart, you might see him near the front of the field because that is a track where he's succeeded at in the past, but it's going to be a little more of an even playing field. The season finale was there last season. It was a great race between John Hall and Jake Matheson for the title. No Matheson tonight. We should see him next week for sure, and it should be another great battle. It's one of the best mile and a halves on the service for sure. Should be a lot of fun. Well,
Jake Nichols is the first one to make it to the booth to chat. Oh, Travis Beckner just got there, so let's talk with our third place finisher on the night, Travis Beckner. Man, rough and tumble night. Had to battle time and time again, Travis, but you were able, look at the curb jumps there. You were able to parlay that back to a third place result. Got hands-on a little bit tonight, but it got you the results you needed. You were so good on the brakes. Was that the key to grabbing a top 5 this evening?
Yeah, honestly, if the slowdowns didn't come in factor there was a few of them that, in my opinion, I shouldn't have got. I didn't even get an off track for some of them. But, I'll take a top 3 out of it. It sucks we're not racing at dirt. If we were racing at dirt tonight, I'm pretty sure I would have won that. But either way, this was still a fun race. Yeah, sucks that we're not racing at dirt. And the whole thing between Seth and I mean, just hard racing. He might not like it, but I don't care. I had to do what I had to do.
Well, with the last road race out of the way, we head to Chicagoland, Rockingham, and Talladega to finish out the regular season. How do you feel about your position currently, and do you need to get up on the wheel and continue this aggression until we get to the playoffs here in a couple of weeks?
Yes, I 100% need to keep up this aggression for the rest of the season. When I'm more aggressive like this, I mean, people don't like it, but it's when I start clicking off better results. So,
Travis Beckner, third place tonight in Montreal. Travis, congratulations. A strong run there at the end and a P3.
Yep, before I go, I'd like to thank my sponsors, Hendry County Motorsports Park, Elite Entertainment, everybody at Low Dollar Racing, and Elite Esports. I'm sure there was some drama going on in the YouTube chat tonight. Thank you, Dad. Love you. My mom, my stepdad, Steve, and everybody that came out and watched. Y'all taking the time out of your day to come broadcast this.
Travis Beckner, P3 tonight in Montreal. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
Second place, Sebastian Marin in the number 32, and the night started very, very strong. You led the opening 5 laps of this race, got a slowdown penalty that puts you behind, and then after that, the pit stop happened. You were in a great position to take the race to the end, but it just didn't pan out that way. What could you have done different to win this one tonight? You had the pace early.
Man, it was all limit the mistakes. I made way too many mistakes here tonight. I knew that was going to be my kryptonite heading into this race, was going to be the slowdowns through the last chicane and the one going under the bridge. And that was ultimately what I'd say cost me a chance at the win. Jake had very, very good long run pace, just like he did at Sonoma. So I think it would have been another nail biter between me and him. And yeah, I kind of lost the lead the first stint, played the undercut, got the lead back, and then immediately threw it by getting another slowdown. So a little disappointed with myself, but you know, I kind of knew that was going to be a roadblock for me this race, considering how close to the edge you had to run here. Yeah, just for next time, just try to limit mistakes. So.
Sebastian Mayer in second place tonight at Montreal. Good run, but just not quite good enough. 4 wins on the season, though. Things are still looking good, Sebastian. Thanks for talking.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. And Jake Nichols, it seems like it's been a while since we've talked to you here as a race winner, because it's 9 races into the season and you just got your first. It's almost hard to believe, but 23 laps led. And after Sebastian had a slowdown early, you just took command and really never looked back other than having to remake the pass after the pit stop. You had the speed tonight. How clicked in were you behind the wheel of this truck this evening?
Pretty good. I felt like the only thing I was really lacking was braking. Like Monday was the opposite. Really, the Sonoma as a whole was complete opposite, where I felt like I was better than everybody at braking. But tonight I just never really got comfy with it. So I just pretty much did what I knew, which was just rolling into the corners a lot more, braking a little early, lifting a little early, and just trying to keep the tires cool pretty much. Like, that was the name of the game here. And I mean, it worked. The second half of the run, I felt like we were at worst same speed as Sebastian. Obviously Sebastian's on rails, so to be the same speed as him any portion of the run is awesome. And it's like Sonoma, I felt like if I got in front of him that last run, I would have beat him. I would have just pulled away just because I had the one lap tires on him, and I felt the same way tonight. But I think on even tires it would have been the same story. Like, once I got the lead, he couldn't really do much, but we're so close on pace with each other. I think you put either one of us out front, no mistakes, and that person's gonna win. But either way, great race with him. Man, who knew? I felt pretty confident with this track leading up. Obviously we didn't win the way we wanted to on Monday, but we still won and got our first truck win tonight, so hopefully we can go to Thursday and maybe pull off the sweep.
Well, that would be certainly a very sweet thing. Connor also mentioned earlier tonight how, Sebastian was just so far ahead of everybody, and then you come into the race and the actual race pace was so good. So the confidence is showing. Jake, congratulations on the win tonight, and we'll see you later this week.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Connor, final thoughts here on Montreal and Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Obviously an entertaining race. I think we knew that coming into a road course, but top 2 don't surprise me. Really, the top 5 don't surprise me. Seth Knoll, I think we could have seen more out of, and certainly a disappointing night for Ricky Springer, but only 3 races left until the playoffs.
Travis Beckner. I think Seth Knoll already had him on his list, but definitely another one of the drivers to check off. So that'll probably get bigger and bigger as the season goes on and it gets more intense. But definitely what Jake Nichols needed. He gets 1 win, he could keep him rolling. So we'll just have to wait and see if that happens in this truck series going to Chicagoland after this final road course. And like we said, if he piles up those playoff points as well as at the top, if he stays at the top of the standings and keeps winning some races, he's going to be tough to beat. And he's almost going to make himself a lock for the finale in Atlanta if he keeps his pace up. So Nichols and Marin definitely the top 2 to beat right now. Marin with the wins, Nichols with the consistency. Still no finishes below 12th place. But you never know. Travis Beckner has the aggression to win this championship, and you can't count out Seth Knoll, Reese Schaefer, even David Weishart. You never know what's going to happen.
Well, time to wrap things up from the road course. Chicagoland next week, but more Circuit Gilles Villeneuve on Thursday with the Florida State Builders Area Pro Series. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and we'll see you right back here in Canada on Thursday night.